So, hello and welcome everyone to another episode on the CyberSec Migrant podcast. This is actually going to be the first of two parts of this episode. I'm going to be talking to a good friend of mine. He is one of the leaders in the cybersecurity space in the Nigerian industry, and we've been having a bit of back and forth. And I said to him, "Hey, bro, come on my podcast so we can have a conversation about what happens, in Nigeria." I want to introduce and welcome to today's episode, Bolabo Awelewa, to the CyberSec Migrant. Bolabo, welcome.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. It's always exciting talking about cybersecurity, especially in this region, out to the world. So happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. And I wanted to, because we're having this conversation just before we actually started rolling as well. So I wanted to bring it back there, talking about, and this what we were talking about just before we started rolling was about, how we built all our capacity locally, how we got to that. Tell us your story. How did you get to where you are today?
So if I hear you clearly, which is how did I land in cybersecurity, which is where I am today, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so good.
Everybody's story is different.
I know. Funny enough, um, so my own story was so yes, I found myself. I've always wanted to do tech. I studied electronics and computer engineering in school. So initial drive was be a network engineer, systems administrator. Um, Found myself working in a very critical technology environment, InterSwitch back in the days. And then because it was payment infrastructure by default, the awareness for security was overwhelming I think it was so exciting. Even our servers were not the regular servers. Operating systems were pre-wired. It wasn't the average Windows server 2003. And it was like pre-wired from the OEM of the physical infrastructure called Stratos.
Mm.
That, very embedded operating system, it was just larger than life. And a lot of emphasis was on security because it's cargo that data, it was payments. And and I was in an amazing team, there in industry. Then we're called InfraTrust, and just a team full of wheezes where our job then was not just managing the infrastructure, thinking next level. And then we were interfacing with the Visa and Mastercard a lot, and they were sharing expectations or requirements that always included some level of security, payment security, there, and infrastructure security. And doing the research of the other, then my boss, who's my partner today at the Tokumba Motor Shop, just said there's PCI DSS, and we can be the first payment company in this part of the world, which is West Africa, or the first company in Nigeria to comply to the PCI DSS standard. And the journey started. And why we are doing that business today is because we did it ourselves. So we started that journey. We let the MD know, very forward-driven management, guys, go for it as long as it positions us well. And we looked at requirements, put everything together, called the QSA Trust Wave then from South Africa.
Okay. Yeah.
Trust Wave flew in, we failed the first audit, we took it back and like, what do we need to do? As in every requirement, including implementation of controls, which is where the idea, because then for every requirement, we looked at implementing specific controls like maybe database security or two-factor authentication. So let me tell you how exciting it was. For the requirements to use two-factor authentication to log into devices or workstations that handle cargo data, I had to create so we had these tokens by Gemalto tokens, and I had a local CA server where I would generate authentication certificates attached to user credentials on AD and upload it onto this chip and give it to the analysts or the settlement and reporting guy or the people handling customer data, and they'll put it into their device, USB drive. It will pop up and ask for a token that has been preset aside the password. For me, it was just exciting, like, all gizmo. Like, so what we did was ensure we met requirements in a cost-effective manner without buying controls. Of course, we changed our two-factor after a while. We had to go and buy a proper two-factor authentication solution. But we looked at each requirement. I know, right? So we looked
Yeah.
at each
True.
requirement and said, okay, this is what this control is supposed to be. So that was where the journey started. And I said, you know what? Long story short, we complied to PCI after the second or third audit, and we were just super proud that we did it on our own. We announced first company in Nigeria to comply to PCI DSS. The next question will now be, can we use this to generate revenue? So we did a presentation to management that, hey, we think we can, as an operational team, generate revenue for into Switch, because all banks are plugged into us and some payment
Yeah,
companies,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we can do it for them. Of course, the idea wasn't taken, which is why we are where we are today. So you know what, we think we can do this on our own, and that's where it started. Immediately after that journey for me, I put in a request that I was in charge of. I was head of information security systems and support. And when I'm like, you know what, I want to drop information security system and I want to be the head of information security. So I started my CISO journey from there. I put in a request. Then it wasn't a good time. They had not embraced it. And I'm like, you know what? I need to go somewhere where it's wanted. And that was where I left into Switch to work at Altec West Africa, UBA. Then starting for Prive with my partner now,
yeah.
Tokumbo, and then went to UBA, back to the industry to head application and database security. And that's where the journey started, and security started being a thing. And then, yes, a lot of people jumped on it. The good thing then with the experts from Nigeria, people like you, is you started from infrastructure. You did a bit of infrastructure,
Yeah.
whether you're a
Yep.
developer, an infrastructure guy, before going into security. We would compare that to the information security guys we have now,
Or
which
just straight up
no
information
technology
security
background,
from the start.
no administration background,
Yep.
straight into information security, and that explains our depth.
Yeah.
So that was the
Yeah.
journey,
Absolutely.
managed infrastructure. And I will always tell people, I got to a point where I felt I had built, managed, operationalized critical infrastructure, and it was time to secure. All of a sudden, security became a very important part because if you build or you set up without security controls, then you've not built to last. So it would affect your security management program. It would affect business continuity, availability. Securing is one of the most important things you want to do if you are creating or innovating, which is
Yeah.
what's happening
Absolutely.
now, even in the tech space, the digital space. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
ideating, design, innovate, and security is becoming. Security used to be an afterthought. Some are still not thinking about it on time or
To their
allocating the right
loss.
budget to it. And then they hit an inflection point and they come back to it. So today at CyberSec, so what we've done, so at InfoPrive, um, yeah, we started with our first child, which is helping organizations comply to security standards, global best practices, to security engineering, implementing controls that will help you meet each requirement, to um, security operations, setting up a SOC. So we provide them SSP services, to establishing a robust offensive security team, to be able to carry out vulnerability assessments, pen tests, red teaming
Mhm.
exercises, to digital forensic and incident response, and now to our recent venture, which is we've built a security product that helps you establish digital trust, and basically looking at the components of digital trust: compliance management, security program, privacy program, risk management, and a host of other services that should give a C-suite or a CISO like your posture level from a security or digital trust perspective. That where and how am I doing from a compliance management perspective? How am I doing on my vulnerability management program? How am I doing for my security operations program? And a host of other features that just gives you an aggregation of either every control or every framework or program you're running from a cybersecurity perspective. So that's what we're doing with the Cyber Guardian platform today. In fact, today we are using it to enhance the user experience from a security perspective for all our customers. We're also using it to enable competition. So today we have competitors that leverage on our platform to help their customers comply to standards. So typically, the platform today is competing with Drata, Vanta, even Wiz for cloud security posture management, and it's really exciting for the level of adoption, especially from a budgetary perspective for this region. And the idea is to go to that level where we provide services abroad, Middle East, Europe, the Americas. So that's CyberSec for you. So we are now a tech company focused on cybersecurity. So my new role, Chief Solutions Officer, typically is providing security solutions. So for some environments, understanding your requirements based on my background, I take your pain points and your existing investment in security. You are most likely not
Yeah.
replacing anything, and we're enriching it to give you that effective return on investment, return on proper value for and effective visibility, keeping you compliant, keeping you secure, and enjoying the investment in your security infrastructure.
That's beautiful. I think I couldn't say anymore. I like how you took us through that whole journey of how it all started, And I also remember very well then. It used to be everyone wanted to work for InterSwitch because that was the place to work, not the banks. It was for
I
InterSwitch.
know,
I
I
remember
I
that.
know.
It was you either work with InterSwitch or and I think that's a testament to the good work Michelle Legbe did. Fantastic work he did. Building InterSwitch and all of that, and Quick Teller today and all of that. And they're still a big player in the space, so no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Hey, CyberSec Migrant listeners. If you're enjoying the show, help us spread the word. Share the CyberSec Migrant podcast with your friends, your colleagues, and your network. It's the best way to help others discover our awesome content and to join the conversation. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and any other place where you get your podcast, so you never miss an episode. And do hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Your support helps us keep bringing you more valuable content, insights, and stories, and all these tips from the world of cybersecurity. And thank you for tuning in. And now, let's get back to today's episode. I like that you mentioned digital trust. In my role, one of the things, my space is identity and access management, which is big. Everyone is. I say to people, security is all dandy and good, but if you don't have your identity in place, then it's pretty much useless. And today, most attackers aren't looking to brute force their way into a server. If you look at all the biggest breaches from recent years, Colonial Pipeline, MGM, all of that, Equifax, somebody's going to steal a legitimate user's credentials and use that to get it. How do you defend against somebody who is supposed to be there, right? Because he's supposed to be there, he's the right credentials. So let's talk a bit more about this digital trust thing, because it's so important. Because I can, because we're all behind an IP address, I can say I'm anybody I am. How do you know that? How do you trust that I am who I say I am? So how does that building digital trust? What does without necessarily letting out all your trade secrets? How does that come into play? And how does CyberSec do that? With its tools.
So yeah, so thank so it's an interesting question because depending on who you're talking to or the kind of infrastructure you have or the kind of solutions or services you provide, it comes in different ways. So, but digital trust generally is, like you said, being able to, if you're a provider, getting your customers comfortable that yes, this is my provider, my data is safe with my provider, my interactions are secure, my transactions are secure, my data is secure, generally. As a provider, you are also ensuring you're providing service securely and ensuring that the authenticity of the data or the updates from this particular user, is to that user. So in a way, it sort of goes both ways. And operationally, um, we there've been a proliferation of technologies, especially since zero trust came through. So one of the key controls in place for digital trust is that BOS solution. Permit me to use that zero trust, because now there are boxes, there are network boxes on edge devices that are for zero trust from most of the big providers now. And yes, they do work. They provide that additional, I would call it paranoia, to just ensure you have visibility and can establish digital trust. Um, but literally, digital trust is just establishing that secure connection to your customer, giving the customer that comfort that, hey, I am transacting, interfacing with a provider that has put specific controls in place. And not only will keep my transactions secure, it's also keeping my data safe. You understand? From a provider side is I've put adequate controls and policies, processes, even humans in place to prevent against insider threats, um, possible zero-day attacks, possible session hijacking,
Hijacking.
or
Yeah.
typical business email compromise where it's hijacked and then retransmitted. And from my own experience, we've discovered that it's a combination of a lot of things. Quickly we'll move away from compliance because compliance to standards don't keep you that secure, by the way. It's a big checkbox these days. But
Yeah.
what we've been
Yeah.
able to do with the digital trust platform is operationalizing. So today, Femi, I have customers that say, I don't want you to help me comply to any ISO standard or PCI or something. I want you to operationalize the requirements. In fact, when I got that requirement, and this requirement was from a CISO, and I think it's important to say this. It's from a CISO that has worked for a global organization in Europe, and like you claim that you guys are coming back, came back to come and be CISO for some unicorn in Nigeria now. And
Okay.
when he came with the requirement, it was really exciting for me that the guy is thinking straight because he knows that his guys would always whip out those documentation and quickly look at those controls to meet specific requirements to tick the box to comply. So what we are doing differently is we call it operationalization. And with operationalization of the standards, we're keeping you in continuous compliance around the clock. So in a way, you are getting to practice each requirement effectively and stay in compliance. No, well, before you stay in compliance, stay secure, transact
Yeah.
securely, conduct your operation securely, and then stay in
Compliance will follow.
compliance till the next cycle. You understand?
Yeah.
So, and that's it. And if I tell you any other thing, I will be mumbo jumbo. It is taking each requirement. I promise
Yeah.
you, it is taking each requirement and operationalizing, which is, for example, firewall rule review. You need to be able to show proof that you're doing it. And I'll give you a typical case in point. Say a standard or a certification that has 12 requirements, 13 requirements, and every 13 has to be green for 100%, right? The
Mm-hmm.
moment you fall short in one requirement, say maybe it was supposed to be a quarterly review that was not done, you drop to amber. There's a percentage for every requirement that drops, the color codes, the way we see
Yeah.
monitoring, and red makes
Mm-hmm.
us worry
Mm-hmm.
and we check.
Mm-hmm.
So we do
Mm-hmm.
that for compliance. So um, continuous compliance is you get notified when you are falling short of a specific requirement or a sub requirement. I'll give you an example. Um, we've sort of automated ASV scans for some of our customers leveraging the
Okay.
platform or vulnerability assessments that you should do quarterly. So what that does is it makes you proactively do this to keep your environment secure, not waiting until maybe there's a release or go to market, or not waiting till the auditor is around and say, we need to quickly do
We
our
haven't done
vulnerability
this.
assessment. So you are operationalizing the program.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is just for the popular ones. There are a lot of other things, policy reviews, assessments that should be done. And it helps you build your artifacts throughout the year without waiting for audit time. And then you now start backdating and then, tracking back to say, oh, we don't have this in place. Where do you have this document? Where is this? And so it becomes a way of life. As a CISO or a security manager, you build the OKRs of your security analyst, compliance analyst, leveraging the platform to that. What are my expectations for your operations on this platform per this standard? And then you build an OKR to it. And the guy knows that on a daily basis, I'm operationalizing a lot of these engagements that keeps the business operationally secure. And I'm also meeting, my targets, as a security specialist. So
Yeah. That.
from specific roles, there's a way it makes the C-suite, the CISO, even chief audit executive, chief risk officer, be able to drive their programs, and effectively, proactively stay in compliance, stay secure.
Yeah.
And you can
And
literally also maintain the different components of digital trust. How am I doing, on this control? How am I doing on this
mhm.
specific control? How am I doing on this specific program? And then, improve on it.
And that's true because I like when you said, it's compliance is a checkbox. Because for many people, that's what
Mm.
that's what compliance actually is. When you say, okay, what standard or what framework are we following? It says do 1, 2, 3, 4. Have we done 1, tick, 2, tick, 3, tick, 4, tick?
Mm.
That doesn't, yes, it's just a tick box, but that doesn't actually do anything to keep you secure, you know. So it's about, like I said, what we do, where I am right now, we have this matter we say secure by design, you know. Like you rightly said earlier on,
Mm.
it's so much easier to build security from the ground up than to say, oh, we forgot about security, let's go back at that security, because it's probably more intrusive, more expensive, wouldn't work as well, there'll be so many faults, the list is endless, you know. So I think it's very important that that's happening. But then I want to sort of change tack and talk a bit about something. I was having a conversation with
Okay.
somebody recently, and I spoke about it also at a conference a couple of months ago about how things like generative AI and blockchain are actually changing the space. You know, they're actually bringing improvements that we didn't think would happen. For like these days, I was telling somebody, you know, once upon a time, you know, you could see a BEC email and know right off the bat that it is BEC because the grammar is terrible, the English is terrible, there's so many errors. Today, they just ask ChatGPT or Copilot or one of those various AI tools to write for them. Flawless English, you know. So you can't use English to say, okay, boy, you call that, I can't get it very well, you know.
Mm.
So how then, you know, so how do we, you know, because I know that's also something you're passionate about, you know, AI and blockchain infrastructure. How do you think that these technologies can actually help us shape the future of what we do in cybersecurity? Because they're here to stay, they're not going anywhere.
Okay. So there's the easy fix. Normally we should get a chance to talk a lot about it, but today a lot of the OEMs are scaling up. The market is a bit intense from a security engineering perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a typical example. Email security providers are scaling up. So they are the traditional ones we used to know, and then there are the new players. For example, this year, my security engineering team, they reviewed. So what we do is we literally we'll do Gartner, or we'll just look at new players for specific security controls and set up in our labs and test out so we can look at how they fare compared to some other solutions. We also do this a lot because of our SME customers that can't afford the Rolls Royces. Like, I'll give you an example. When you tell a fintech or a startup that you need a dam and it's in Peba, dude will shout, where do I get the budget? It's not even sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in that area, we need other dam providers that at least would do as in paper, but need market share and will be cost effective. So we're always out there, aside the popular Rolls Royces, we're looking for, medium scale, small scale, from a budgetary
The
perspective.
Toyotas
So
of the
because of that,
industry.
sorry,
The Toyotas of the industry. The Toyota Corolla of the industry.
absolutely. A lot of Toyota, exactly. So, but these days, there are even those Korean cars, Ginchi, some funny names.
Yeah,
So,
Geely.
and guess what? They Geely or something. They work effectively, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But so because we do that. So for the example you gave, email security, we've trialed some amazing new solutions. So and I like what the providers are doing. They are taking that responsibility. While the developers, the innovators are innovating, leveraging generative AI and the amazing technologies on the blockchain, so are the security providers catching up on it. And so the easiest fix is being with a provider that is leveraging or has put up signatures or algorithms to be able to capture. So, for example, today there are controls in place to be able to tell when an image was generated by AI or a text was generated by AI,
Mm-hmm.
or even the voice recognition, you can tell. And it's getting to a stage of, I won't say perfection, but regularization to the extent that you can track and know. So, from my own experience, for the emails, BEC has become a bit difficult, or emails, phishing mails have been a bit difficult because, in fact, not just the grammar now, even the domains.
Yeah.
So the trend that happened this year that was a bit difficult was the bad actor is breaching vulnerable environments, leveraging on their SMTP service to push out troll
From the
emails
email.
from the domain. So with that, you can't even say, oh, check the URL or check the email address So, and it happened a lot. I think this year, I know it happened with a lot of big players, some entities in Nigeria, as in renowned entities that,
Oh
in fact, I
yes,
think there was a
yes.
regulator involved too. And you don't have a choice. You click on the email because you think it's your regulator. So I think it would take a level of paranoia. So, because I think that I faced a spear phishing attack sometime this year, and
You are a big
it
whale
came
now.
from so it came from the tier 1 bank, and they know I do a lot of speaking engagements, Zoom and all that stuff. And it came like maybe I was invited to something I'm supposed to click or something. Like, no way, nobody has called me, nobody reached out to me. In fact, this tier 1 bank is not my customer, they've not given me business. So I was a
Like
bit paranoid. So I just forwarded it to my security operations
team,
team. Like, hey guys, please
investigate.
help analyze this mail. And then it was actually a campaign that didn't go to everybody, but to some key, top people that would
Wow.
want to interface with that tier 1 bank. And a couple of other ones happened where it comes from the regulator to C-level in some fintechs and financial institutions. And you would think it's coming from the regulator, so you click on it. And see, to be honest, for these programs, it comes back to the human. Because what the
Exactly.
bad
I
actor
was
has
going to
done
say
is
that.
what the bad actor has done is they've put technology for technology. Oh, you're using controls. Are you okay? Me too. I ensure my email
I'll
grammar
use
is
it.
good. I will breach an SMTP service and leverage to blast. And it will take you thinking and saying, I wasn't expecting a mail from this provider. But why
Why am I
did this
getting it?
regulator send me this attachment without informing us?
Mm-hmm.
What can
Mm-hmm.
this be
Mm-hmm.
about? And
Yeah. Yeah.
also a lot of reliance on the control you've put in place. So now I'm relying a lot on my email security solution to be very reliable. Yeah, also there's a lot of reliance on the controls today now. So now, instead of me assuming that all is well, there's a lot of reliance on my email security solution and, expecting, that, you would capture, a malware or put as spam or as phishing. And, but eventually, what really helps now is the human. Those awareness we've been putting out, the human needs to be able to stop and think. The last incident response engagement we had last month was a fintech, and guess who they hit? The CTO, and guess what they used? It felt like an email that came from his email provider. So I won't call the
Okay.
email provider so the person customer will know I'm giving them as a use case. Well, they use a
That's
particular
fine.
email
That's fine.
provider. It looked like the mail came from the email provider. And meanwhile, the guy that hijacked the system, he reached out to support. And I'm sure you must have seen some notification about bad actors pretending as support for some specific
Oh yeah,
providers.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so when you reach out to them, you're actually chatting one of their bots that would lead you to the pit, which is what
Yeah.
happened with the
They're like,
guy,
hey,
put his
come here, take my
credentials,
hand.
changed, bam, lateral movement. So
Yes.
lateral movement through the network, access to critical information, money moves, fraud, and all that. So, and guess what? Initially, the management of the organization suspected the guy, only for us to do a review and tell, hey, it's not the guy. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing, the head of infrastructure, but he's a victim
Yeah.
actually. And
Yeah.
the only thing that would have saved him was applying that level of awareness he should have to know not to have clicked on the link, opened the attachment,
Yeah.
or even
Yeah.
responded to the support,
Such an email. Yeah.
engagement. So in a way, machine machine versus machine, which is tech, bad actor, and we the end users, eventually the end user needs to be able to know that hey, this looks too real. So because for example, today we see images. I see people put stuff on their status or videos. I'll be like, I'll give you a typical example. Now I'm a bit paranoid. Every Morgan Freeman video I see feels generated by
Yep.
AI.
Yep.
Morgan Freeman, then I think the song for David Beckham, like no. So it's voiceover. In fact,
Yeah.
Denzel too. So people use them for quotable quotes. Oh, 5 things you should do to become successful. One. And then
Yeah.
you see the video.
Yeah.
Well, that's not him.
Exactly. It looks so
Voiceover and it's
real.
done. So
Looks so
it's a
real.
bit so there's a level of paranoia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then if you notice, Twitter is helping us too with that. Some posts will be up. and then people will be commenting. Then you just see Twitter will just put it there that for your information, this was generated by so and so.
But yeah,
There was no, this image was superimposed. And basically maybe to save, the audience the stress of responding and so if you bring that back to security is the awareness we're putting out is it's becoming super real. And what is left now is a level of intention. Should I have received
yeah,
this mail? You
yeah,
know, there's a part of control to scaling up to the right controls. We're making those recommendations now. And for example, throughout the course of the year, we've had customers move from an affordable DLP solution to a more robust one. Same thing for email
okay,
security.
yeah,
Popular,
yeah,
affordable email security provider to more, I was going to say more Gen Z, because more like new school,
yeah,
more
yeah,
new school email security provider because they are building with generative AI in mind. They are building with,
yeah,
new technology in mind, leveraging on where the old players have stopped and building to the next level. And this will happen into the new year, which is good for the market because um, a lot of the old providers are also scaling up, to be able to compete effectively in the market. But the
yeah,
new guys are coming and building for, say, I'll give you an example. Every security provider now is providing a cloud instance and providing for the cloud infrastructure. Some old guys will still, oh, we want on premise, but everybody now is building for the cloud. Everybody's transitioning to the cloud. So if you have a solution that can't cater to the cloud, then you're not ready to
you're not
go.
ready to play. Yeah,
And same thing for AI and all that level of automation. So, for example, you have a SIM and you're not effectively leveraging SOA, then you must be ready
then
for
what's the
all the
point?
amazing logs that you don't need that
Need,
you can also filter effectively.
yeah,
So it's that next level we need to get to, which is why the recommendation is always plan and budget effectively for growth from a cybersecurity perspective. You would always need to scale as you innovate. So so that's
yeah.
that's that's what can save us now.
So one of the things I wanted to actually talk about as you were speaking that came to my mind is talking about the human being the weakest link. I remember saying this to someone that when it comes to security, your human can be both the weakest and the strongest link. Because if you like, I was thinking back sometime last no, this is a couple of years ago now. We were because we had to deal with the solar winds issue where I work when that happened.
All right,
And
right.
it was
Yeah,
months before anybody actually knew what happened. And if not because somebody was like, hey, something doesn't look right here, nobody would have known.
right.
Because these days it's all about living
Yeah.
off the land attacks. They're going to breach you and say, okay, this is where we are. Let's sit down. Let's just monitor for 3 months, don't do anything, and then eventually
Yeah.
they just come and do what they want to do. So yes, we've automated so many things. There's so much automation right now that everything is all automated, click on that. But also we still need that human oversight. I saw something on the news a couple of days ago. One of the top immigration consultants in Canada here uh, was confronted by someone who said, "You sent me a video talking about this," and it was like that was not me, but it looked like him. It looked so real. This deep fake was deeper than deep fakes, and it was like he was the one. And then the guy's WhatsApp status photo was his photo, even though he was not the one. And I was like, he said his concern was how many people will have seen this person asking for
Same.
money and
Mm-hmm.
saying it's why is he asking for money with all the money he has, that kind of thing. So reputational damage was a thing he
Yeah.
was thinking about there. So there's yes, we automate a lot of things now, but how do you now, human oversight? How do we balance that? We need to do things at light speed. We need to automate things so that we don't have to deal with all the manual reviewing of logs. Let's bring in a SWAT to automate things. But then how do we
Yeah.
manage and balance that human oversight part of it? Because they are both very, very important, right?
So good question. I remember in the meeting this morning, I was still I threw a challenge to one of my colleagues that talked about how can we automate. And I'm like, this issue is not an automation issue, it's a cultural issue. So I'll give you an example. The only people that can effectively leverage SOA are those that have mastered and have developed capacity for monitoring and alerting effectively. So if you jump on SOA from the get go, you don't even know or can't appreciate the improvement it's bringing to your operations.
Yeah, true.
What SOA is supposed to do is enhance, enrich, improve, reduce false positives, increase. your proactivity, sort of. Um, but do you even know what a false positive is? Do you
Yeah.
know what it means to have seen or pour through logs, or struggle with some level of correlation? So I think it's a knowledge thing. I think a lot of capabilities need to be put behind the concept of automation than people thinking it's just a widget, a button clicked, and then it just runs its course. Because basically it will be defeating. It's like getting into the car, pressing a button, and just folding your hands. And anytime you need to increase speed, you just press a button. Okay, I'm driving really slow, increase speed to 120. Okay, drop it back to 80. No, you have to press,
Yeah.
brake, and you need to know how to do it. And then you get to a point, you put it on cruise control. I say, okay, the road is free, I'm on cruise, let me chill on 100 for the next 10 minutes. And then intelligent cars, um, um, collision detection,
Yeah. And
helps you
avoidance and
press,
all of those.
brake,
Yeah.
all that. There's a level of skill required to actually appreciate all that
All of
functionality and
that.
technology.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to SOA and automation from a security perspective, the teams, the analysts, the security architect needs to be able to know where it's coming from, what this improvement is help you achieving, and then actually enjoy it and provide the actual value. So today, there's the SOA board, everybody SOA. So what's SOA? Okay, what's it helping you achieve? What are you trying to do? What are you doing with the outcomes? This output, how is it being utilized? So first is actually know how to, I'm sure there are levels where SOC 1, SOC 2, monitoring and alerting, incident response, checking, opening a ticket, looking at alarms, and then now looking at SOA and how it's helping you orchestrate and automate and see your output compared to before. So the advice would be, I was having a conversation with a colleague and says in 2 years' time, his daughter will start learning to drive. And his plan is to ensure she learns with manual. But this guy lives abroad. He lives abroad where there are automated cars now. You understand?
Yeah. Self-driving
But just
cars.
wants her to have the exact self-driving car. So but just wants her to appreciate the journey and say, hey,
Yeah.
we are go and push that stick. And then you get to the auto. And then I'll say the day you're tired, self-driving will pick you up. And it's that so she would actually appreciate the auto and the self-driving car more after learning. So
How to
they
drive a stick.
we move to that level of technology, we move to the automated level. But from a capacity development perspective, the individual, the teams need to see where the journey is coming from, which is understand that probably manual or semi-automatic approach that led to the automatic approach, and then be able to effectively utilize the solution. Also knowing that SOA doesn't just fix your problem, like go and sleep. It will just filter the logs and bring everything to you.
At your own
No,
risk.
no, orchestration and automation are it's so that's why from what I've seen, I think that has helped a lot. Environments that they had used solutions and they felt that pain point and they know a level of automation would help with pouring through this much traffic, size of logs to get actionable data to now take it to the next level for ticketing and responding to incidents. So, and this would apply to the different aspects of cybersecurity to, see, I'll give you an example. I've been in an environment where their WAF was in monitoring mode for years. I'm like, when are you going to turn on blocking? It's the fact that they don't just want to mistakenly block legitimate transactions or
Traffic.
activities. Well, like, but that was then. Now it's just the same way. In fact, a very good use case. In my internship days as the security administrator, I managed the proxy. I literally used to update my blacklist manually. Like I will walk around and say, look on what this guy is going to a gaming site or this,
Then
and then I
okay.
collect
Block his
every
IP.
URL. And then
Those are
I've
the
created a
days.
rule that block this blacklist, allow the rest. So I just go to the blacklist and always update it for every new
Yeah.
URL, and they will keep looking for new ones, and I keep moving ahead of the curve. And together I'm like everything's automated. In the next 2 years, the next proxies that came up just comes with a wildcard for social media,
Yeah.
and every social media site is blocked. The wildcard for gaming, every gaming site is blocked. I actually literally saw that improve because there were some social media sites that were not picked, and in the next version they'll be picked. And now
Yeah.
proxies are perfect. You
Mm.
block porn sites, you block gaming sites, you block, in fact, you just all wild tags that then I had to go to. So now, because I had manually populated a list of URLs to be blocked, I appreciate just using a wildcard
Okay, to do that.
to also now automated user activity monitoring, where you can just tell anomalous user activity and adding it to the blacklist, checking if I should block this. Because now that's being checked. You can just check based on activities that say this seems to be an anomalous activity that should be out of range for a corporate environment, and it's flagged. But if it's a legitimate whitelisted when you enable it, it continues. If it's a blacklisted, you add it to the blacklist and it continues blocking, which is
Yeah,
machine learning now. So
exactly.
major leverage of going from the manual, to the new school where we can now start saying AI, ML. So,
Yeah.
so you need to appreciate that journey for building your team. I appreciate it now because of what I've experienced. For every opportunity from a training capabilities development perspective, they need to be able to see where you're coming from and why you're leveraging on this automation to be able to bring the best value out of it. So, and I think that is what is lacking in for a lot of people coming into cybersecurity. I had a conversation with some colleagues, I think it was last year, because they are influencers, people listen to them a lot. And I said, you guys need to stop saying it's easy to get into cybersecurity.
Thank you very much. Somebody
You need to
finally
stop
said it.
saying you don't need tech skills to get into cybersecurity,
You can do it in 6 months.
or you can do it in 6 months. What you need to
Yeah.
start saying is get these tech skills in 6 months and become an amazing cybersecurity specialist. Because
Yeah.
they get
Yeah.
in by virtue of a program or the other and then struggle.
Yeah. So true. That is so true.
As in, you need to see what I go through. It's a bit of a comedy at times. I have customers that bring in some of these, young, aspiring, driven people getting through those programs, and then they give them access to their controls and programs, and the guy is trying to do some exciting stuff on an EDR solution, and then before you know it, poof, they don't press spoil, and then they call the support guy, and they remove.
Yes, they call
Seriously,
it someone to
one
save the
happened,
day.
and they're like, this same guy used to harass my support team, my tech, my security engineering team. Oh, they didn't do this, they didn't do this. All be theory. So one day, just wanted to get his hand dirty and try something, and brought down the system.
Yeah.
And then the security
Yeah.
engineering team moves in and then fixes the problem, educates them, quickly run another workshop on effective administration of the security control. And please carry us along whenever you want to make a change or carry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a gap there because there's a need for a lot of cybersecurity professionals today, and because of people like Femi that migrate and leave the country.
Yes.
A lot of my customers are embracing a lot of these guys that do these 6 courses, 6 months, short courses, get into the
Mm-hmm.
program and, hoping they can sink or swim. Problems, there's a lot of
Hopefully
sinking
swim.
these days.
Yeah.
So hopefully swim, but a lot of sinking is happening. And it's an inflection point for us. It's a good problem for me because it means we are there to help them develop capacity. We are there to support them throughout that journey of improving their security posture. Today, I have customers, we have a SOC maturity program with them where
Mm.
from people, technology, process, seeing a projection and improvement as their technology footprints enlarges, the landscape enlarges, and based on the different channels they're using to conduct their business, applying the right controls, and developing the right capabilities to manage them. So it's a problem, and the good thing is that's what's making we cybersecurity professionals, whether as a service provider or as a user, which is being a CISO or a security manager, that's what's making us relevant, and that's what
Yeah.
will make the
Yeah.
field continue to be very attractive. But
Yeah.
the plea is, can we just have the right skills and capabilities? You know, to save the businesses, to save our reputation, by the way, too. And, and then,
Yes, very important.
because it's, it's not a field you want to drop the barrier. It's the field, keep making it attractive, but you need to understand that you get into it. It's like insurance. You're an insurer. When you get as a security guy, your job is to secure the business. So in a way, you're providing insurance to your organization. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and you also don't want to limit innovation. So you want to tell them that I'm here to ensure you can innovate securely. So you continue to grow and scale and stay secure.
yeah,
So
yes,
how do you provide that? And that's where our own digital trust program comes into play.
comes in. I
So
was going to
looking
say
at it
that.
holistically and managing the program.
Yes, I was going to say that. And it's been, I think we can always have this, we can keep having this conversation on and on and on without getting tired. That's very interesting. For the audience listening, this is the first of two parts as well. Like I said, so Balaba is going to come back on our next episode, and we're going to be talking a bit more, not just about what CyberVigent does, but also about the African cybersecurity ecosystem, particularly with the focus on Nigeria, and also comparing that to how we've got this burgeoning tech talent, and how we can see how does Nigeria compare with the world and all of that. But just to wrap up this this first part of this two series, one final word, what's because one of the things, like CyberVigent is one of those companies that's doing a lot of things in this space, like you rightly said. You've heard all of that, so go on their website. I'll put a link to their website down in the comments below, so in the description below as well, so that you can actually see what they're doing and you can connect. I also put a link to Balabo's LinkedIn as well. So for those of you on LinkedIn, if you want to connect with him, check in the description down below as well. You should be able to connect with him. But just sort of final words about how what Subvagent is doing and how you can help companies stay secure now and into the future.
Thanks for the platform. I've been wired in such a way that you're out there that don't sell too much, but hey, thank you. So, I know, right? Um,
Yes, so very
so
important.
um, so so for Cybervergent, like I said, we're all about helping organizations establish the user trust. We've also effectively positioned to let entities, businesses, or even people know that to become a cybersecurity specialist or to drive a cybersecurity program is not expensive. It's by skill, it's by size, it's by services you provide, it's by the channels you have available. What we've been able to do over the years is to use that level of skill and grow with a lot of organizations. Today, we're a global organization. We are registered to conduct business in the US and Canada, um, all parts of Africa, Middle East, and Europe. And we've also moved to the level of building specific cybersecurity products now. And the difference with us is based on the understanding, the level of experience, the capacity developed over the years of the management team, and our understanding of the tech landscape, and how important innovation is for our future. We've been able to tailor our solutions to, meet your needs specifically. So we're fixing that problem of off-the-shelf solutions that are not working. So our solution has been positioned to enrich your security program, enrich your security control, empower your security analyst, your CISO, average CISO, and overall help you think from an enterprise level of digital trust, which is what are those things I'm putting in place. So you get to a point, what we see is next year we're seeing CISOs, CIOs, even chief risk officers, you know, talking about that digital trust posture and, presenting to their board and management, based on their investments on different programs, whether it's a security program, risk management program, compliance management program, you know, call it a trust program and show their level of compliance or level of controls in place or level of operationalization of the security practices that is keeping the business secure and helps them justify the investment in cybersecurity. So we've moved from that selling the box, implementing controls, and just making money from the customer to operationalizing and being part of your journey. And today we're proud to say we helped and we've worked with a lot of unicorns. In fact, a lot of things happened this year. A lot of unicorns announced like a new raise or growth level, and we find ourselves celebrating. Why? Because we were with them when they started. Of course, it's more money for us because now they get to subscribe to more security services that pay us more money.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it was the promise we gave them when we started, when there was no funding. And we said, we can adjust and align to your budget, ensure you are secure as you grow and innovate. And now we've seen, we have at least about 8 unicorns, Nigeria-based and Africa-based unicorns, subscribe to our services, of driving their security programs, and they trust us to help secure the infrastructure. So we're responsible for helping them establish digital trust, and we can do that for any organization today. So our job is breaking it down, making it relatable, especially from a business or growth roadmap perspective, and helping you ensure you stay secure and your posture is intact.
And there you have it. So if you wanted to, if you want to improve on your digital trust posture, if you want to stay secure, even with the smallest of budgets, you know who to talk to. So thank you very much, listeners, for tuning in today. And until next time, like I said, tune in next time for the next part of this discussion with Balabo. And the next time, this is Femi signing out on the CyberSec Migrant. Thank you.